This is The Recap, a weekly reflection on the sermons of Fellowship Baptist Church in Mainville, Ohio, seeking to help you make Jesus essential in every aspect of your life. I'm your host, Brent Wilson, here with the preacher of this week's sermon, Ryan Land. Ryan, we've switched roles, but not seats. How you doing?
We should have switched seats.
No, I can't do it.
This should be the host seat.
No, this is my seat.
Okay. Oh. What about when you're not here? Then Josh is like, this is my seat back here. He's got a nice chair back there.
There's something, it's like when I go to a restaurant, I always get the same thing. Once I like something,
That's crazy.
I seldom deviate.
That's crazy, dude.
So
I love to try new food. I had Nigerian
I like
food.
to try new food from new restaurants.
I had Nigerian food this week.
What was that like?
It was pretty good.
Well, I don't even know what
it was like
it
was like rice, and then it was like goat and beef, and then like some other stuff. It was kind of like almost like a sauce that you put on top of I put it on top of my rice. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to eat it,
right.
But it was pretty good.
I'm really glad you enjoyed that.
Goat is good. Have you had goat?
I have.
It's
good.
Let
me say this. I've had lamb.
Not the same. But I've also had lamb.
Seems like it'd be similar.
Maybe similar, but I've also had lamb. It's good.
I wonder how similar.
But I like both. I pretty much like all meat.
You ever had goat milk?
No. I've had goat cheese. I've had goat cheese.
How was that?
It was okay.
Would you drink goat milk? Would you try it?
Like from the teat or like
no. Like I don't know if you can buy goat milk or not.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some influencer on Instagram that's peddling her goat milk or whatever.
How do we start talking about this?
I said goat is good. Okay. And you asked if I'd ever had goat milk.
Oh yeah. Well,
I've had oat milk. That's just sans G.
Hey, not milk.
I've had oat beverage. Remember that for a while?
Oat secretion?
Like for a while they were like,
oats?
you can't call it milk. It had to be like beverage. Yeah, so there was no almond milk. It was like almond beverage.
Really?
Yeah, and they got rid of that.
That's funny. Well, it's
like the FDA like changed a little bit, like how they defined stuff, and so you couldn't call stuff that wasn't milk.
Yeah,
and then they repealed it. Big almond milk got to them. Big almond beverage.
big beverage company.
Big almond. Big
That's
oat.
So well, let me ask you this. We've broken the ice already. But let me.
We always think of an icebreaker question, then we talk about some random thing.
Let me ask you this. We're talking about God help those who help themselves. But you talked about at the beginning of the sermon, kind of this idea of the whole sermon series, and you said what we believe to be true about God will always shape how we relate to Him.
Mm-hmm.
Made me think of this quote I use a lot in Starting Point from I can't think of the guy's name, but he says when you think about God or what you think about God,
is it Tozer?
Tozer, yes, is the most important thing about you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we think about God shapes us. And so I'm curious, what is something in your life, could have been a long time ago, what's a position on something that you've changed?
Oh, interesting.
You've changed your theology.
Yeah.
Or something, it could have been something silly you believed or something crazy or something normal.
Do you have one ready to go?
I've got many.
Go for one while I think, because I'm going to have to do a think.
I'll do some crazy ones.
I have to have a think.
So
no one has a think anymore. We just ask AI. Bring back having a think.
Did I say?
I said it to you.
Okay.
It's like this real Scott. Bring back having a think. Yeah. So funny.
I grew up, and I don't know where I was hearing this from, but a lot of conspiracy type things about the Bible. People love like the Bible
like numerology,
code.
Yeah, Bible code,
or like Bible code,
yeah,
or like
yeah.
That kind of stuff. And so I heard stuff like, and I don't know this, but I think the Mormons believe this still.
Well, they might
actually, but that like the curse of Ham. They used to
believe this. I think if it's about to be what you're going to say,
is like where black people came from.
Yes, they did. They renounced that belief, like maybe in the 70s or 80s, but they did believe that being black was a curse from the curse of Ham. Yeah, and you thought that was true? Like someone had taught you that?
Yeah, or talked about it.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. Yeah,
just like I'm trying to think of
Bible conspiracy stuff.
I'm trying to think of a crazy thing I've believed in. All the crazy stuff I believe in, I still believe in, I think. Well,
I used to believe in some crazy things like the rapture. Premillennialism. Not crazy, I'm just kidding. It was a shot.
No, speaking of shot, like I believe in a second, potentially a third shooter in the JFK.
Okay.
But I'm not
A
changing.
third shooter?
Yeah.
Wow.
He didn't fire, but he could have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I haven't changed my position on that. I still believe that.
Okay.
God, there's got to be something.
I mean, speaking of I have changed my eschatology, my end times views.
Yeah. I've probably changed mine, but I got discipled by people who were very smart, like very early in my life. Like in 7th grade, I had a guy who like walked us through Revelation on like a Thursday night, and just like laid out every position, and it was very academic and very.
So let me contrast that. So my early childhood,
I was in 8th grade, I think, going to this Revelation Bible study.
We were kind of not really in church or kind of in and out. And so most of my theology came from sitting around a fire or out on the deck at night, having my parents having friends over, and me listening in to like their conversations with their friends about whatever, crazy kind of Bible thing.
Okay, here's one that I don't know. I don't know if it really counts because I don't know if I ever really believed it.
Yeah.
But it is, I think we've maybe talked about it before, but the Mount of Transfiguration being a time so Moses and Elijah are on the Mount of Transfiguration when Jesus takes on this like divine form, for lack of a better word. And some have speculated, it's like since both Moses and Elijah communed with God like face to face, is Jesus actually like reaching through time and communing with them, because it says they're talking, right? And talking with them in that moment.
Just like a time window and they come through so the disciples can see it.
That's like kind of a crazy belief.
I'm kind of into it though.
I just thought of one. I used to believe that the fourth man in the fire in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was like an angel like an angel. Yeah. And like Jacob wrestling. I thought that was just like an angel, and it's not. It's Jesus.
It is Jesus.
Yeah. So
the word angel just means messenger.
Yeah.
And so Jesus is a messenger from God.
But so it's like, I think this is maybe, what would you say to this? When Adam and Eve are walking in the garden, this is they're walking with the Lord. I think it's Jesus.
Yes.
In a
I think
corporeal body.
I think every interaction with God in the created order ever is Jesus.
Because the Father is outside the created order.
Yeah, I think Jesus is the Word of God. So he's the
Logos. Yeah.
And if you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just always Jesus.
And the Father are one.
It's his role to interact personally.
Yeah, with creation. Interesting. So anytime.
Yeah.
But what about the Spirit?
The Spirit interacts just in a different way, not in any sort of physical or audible way.
Interesting. Yeah, so that would be one I've changed on. Is I used to not believe in a pre-incarnate.
Now, do you
Jesus.
think? We may disagree on this. Do you think Melchizedek is actually Jesus?
Yes, I think he is Jesus.
Yeah, I'm unconvinced on that.
No, I
certainly a type.
Actually, of all of those, I think I'm most convinced.
Really?
There's the most evidence that he's breaking bread and serving wine, that he's the ruler of Salem.
Yeah.
The king, the Jeru of Salem.
Yeah.
Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And so I think there's actually more textual evidence for Melchizedek being, he says he has no mother and father.
Yeah.
And so
that's the one part that's like,
and he's a priest king. He does both.
Yeah, without a doubt, he's a type.
And so I think more from a textual perspective, I think you have more of an argument that he is Jesus himself than Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or any of these other ones. But
all right.
So there you go.
There we go. Yeah. So it's good to always be thinking and changing your views to be more aligned with the scriptures. We don't want to just hold to whatever we held to because we've held to it, or because it makes us comfortable, always changing our views. So, all right, well, let's jump in. So you kind of have two groups of 3 points. The first one, we're talking about a distorted view of humanity.
Yeah.
Based on this phrase. So this is the, did God really say, God helps those who help themselves. Now, you said this, and I totally agree that this is without a doubt the most common used phrase that people think is either in the Bible or biblical.
Yeah.
An idea, and it's not.
Certainly people think it's biblical.
Yeah.
But I mean, the research, I think that Barna poll was maybe from 2019 that said 84% of Americans believe that's in the Bible, verbatim.
Yeah.
And 54% of professing Christians think it's in the Bible. So that wasn't like, is it biblical?
Right.
That means just, do these words appear in this order with this meaning?
Right.
And so yeah, it's like a coin flip,
Yeah.
or I almost had like every other person, stand up.
Yeah.
It's like, this is how many people believe
Yeah.
that this is in the Bible statistically.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. Very pervasive belief.
Now,
And particularly Western / American belief, I think.
what do you think it says about our culture, church culture, us, whatever, that there are so many of these phrases
Oh yeah.
that we think are biblical or in the Bible and are not? What do you think it says about us, and how do you think we got here?
Well, okay. So two things, and one of them I think is going to surprise you.
Okay.
Coming from me.
Okay.
But one, I think we're just kind of lazy. Like we're a little passive.
Yeah.
And so you said it, I think week 1, and I wish I'd have remembered this and used this in my sermon, but you talked about bumper sticker Christians.
Oh, yeah.
And that we are content to know vaguely about the Bible. We're content to know it's like, oh yeah, here's this phrase
That's true.
that's in the Bible, it's like maybe we're employing it in a way that's unhelpful, or because we don't actually know the Bible. We're just using the words of the Bible to serve ourselves or our own interests, and not in like a selfish or manipulative way, but just like in a well, this is what I think the Bible says, and so I'm gonna use it, and so I think that's part of it. That it's like we're just passive. We like to know as Christians, and I talked about this a little bit in the sermon, like this performance. We like for people to think we know about the Bible, but we may not necessarily like to put in the work of knowing the Bible. Yeah. And in a subset of that, like it kind of makes you a nerd. Like you become like the actually person, and so it's actually hard. It's actually hard, I think, to like. I'll just use as an example because we were just kind of talking about this before the podcast, and I deal with this a lot. Is like these like Christian influencers on social media that my teens are interacting with. Actually, a lot of them don't ever like deal with the scriptures. Yeah. They're just doing generally kind of good sort of Christian things. Except for when they're saying weird stuff like I'm going on a date with the Lord or whatever, which is the real thing I saw. But
don't do that.
Anyway, and so I think it's actually to exist. There's a culture specifically in evangelicalism of like, I just want to know kind of the right things, and to know what the Bible actually says, and to be a little more specific and not academic, but more rigorous in your discipleship and your training is actually to be a little bit outside the camp. Is that all these people, all your neighbors, they want to put these signs out in their yard that say, if the people call out on my name, I will bless their land. It's like, you want to be in on that. That's biblical. You love America. You want God to bless us. But you also know, if you're a student of the Bible, that's a promise to Israel, not to America.
Whatever nation.
Yeah, whoever, right? And so you can't be in on that subculture. Yeah. You're actually, you're saying, hey, y'all are using this wrong. Yeah. I think that's one reason. The other reason, and this is the one I think you're going to think is surprising for me, but I do think that it is like spiritual warfare. That I like that. This is how Satan works, is he wants to make us content with just knowing enough. Yeah. That it makes us doubt, or it makes us confident in the wrong thing.
I think that's very, very Screwtape players.
Yes.
I think Lewis would be really into that.
Yeah. And it's like, just know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
And to be confidently incorrect. Yeah.
We were at the Gospel Coalition, this conference, and I may have said this on the podcast, I don't remember, but I was so convicted and just like struck by this. He was talking about how a lot of times we know the right answers to things. Mm-hmm. It's like the answer is always Jesus or whatever. And we might know the answer, but we don't know how to get to it. In the same way, like a math problem, you might know the answer to a math problem, but you don't know actually how to solve the problem. It's like you may know, oh, that's the Trinity, or that's the justification, but you don't actually know how to go to the scriptures and get to that answer. And because you're talking about kind of this laziness, this passivity, the Bible doesn't come to us like this. not even I want to say textbook, but this like nice, easy document. Here are all the rules, and here are all the truisms, and it comes in poetry, and it comes in history, and it comes in prophecy, and it's like you've got to, and things have changed over time, right? Like there are, it's like the same reason people always on the news or wherever talk about like, well, you don't follow all the Old Testament laws, right? You don't follow the Bible perfectly. It's like we actually don't believe you have to, because so it's like the Bible's not this flat thing. It's a story. It's really complicated, and so it actually takes you years of work and study and thought to be able to be the guy who knows the answers.
And praise God, like we don't have to be the ones to do it. Like there's 2,000 years of church history to fall back on, and so we can like actually know how people read and interpreted and applied the Bible in the year 200 AD and all the way up to now. Yeah. And so you don't actually have to do all. People would say, well, Ryan, that's a lot of work. Brent, that's a lot of work. You have to do it all on your own. Yeah. And so being able to go to sources and go to people who have studied the Bible, go to people in your church, right, who have studied the Bible. Yeah. So I think it's not a isolated thing. It was never meant to be.
Here's kind of something I'm seeing right now. So two opposites, not opposite, but two kind of different truths. Like on the one hand, you have this like people who want to know these kind of like bumper sticker, like you're talking about, sayings, these kind of truisms, these kind of like, fluffy truths.
I've been calling around the office. I meant to say this in the sermon. I just forgot. I've been calling them falsisms.
Falsisms. Yeah. I like that.
These Christian falsisms, because they're just not true.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, I've seen a lot, and this is kind of what I was talking about growing up a little bit into this, but I'm seeing a lot now too, is like Bible conspiracy stuff.
Yeah. Like what's the African Bible? The Ethiopian Bible.
So like right now, on YouTube, there are two big things. People are talking about the Ethiopian Bible that is quote unquote the oldest Bible. It's not, but people think it is. Yeah. And that it has the book of Enoch in it. Yeah. And people are like, see, they've taken it out. Yeah. What are they trying to hide from us? What's in the book of Enoch, right? Yeah. And so it's like all this stuff. But the interesting thing is that both of those things, the little cutesy truism bumper sticker things, and this like Bible conspiracy, those things motivate people. Yeah. Like they're like, I want more of these little sayings. And then also I want more of a conspiracy. And it's like, what we need is to be motivated to actually just know God, the voice of God and the truth. But we're not, because it's not as like, I don't know. It doesn't motivate us the same way.
It's a problem of identity, really, is that's what we're, when we're like putting the little truism, falsism on our phone case. Yeah. When it's on our phone lock screen, or we're telling it to people, it's a calling card to the kind of person we are. This is the kind of person I am. Yeah. Or on the conspiracy side, it's I'm the very thoughtful. I'm going deep into the history. I've got it's very Gnostic, right? I'm part of the group that has the secret knowledge. Yeah. And so that's what it's about. I think ultimately is motivated by identity. Yeah. And like, I want to be in this group, and this is like my calling card. See, I'm one of you. I'm on your team. Yeah. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to the actual sermon.
Whatever. Most people listen to it.
I'm supposed to be hosting. I gotta keep this train on the tracks.
No, that's interesting.
All right. So a distorted view of humanity. You got 3 points. The first one, self-help. Yep. Right. Which is a fascinating phrase, or just a whole thing we could talk about. But self-help gives us confidence in the wrong person. Yeah.
So first, the self-help thing. I wish I had time to talk about this more. I sent Brent a screenshot at one point of the word count in my sermon. It was like 5,000 words, which is far too many for, like some of you probably thought it was far too many anyway, and I cut like over 500 words out of it. But I talked about how that's what, at its core, God helps those who help themselves is a self-help phrase. Help themselves is at the end of it, right? Yeah. That's literally self-help.
The only way you get help from God is by to first help yourself, and then God's like, all right, this guy.
And we're obsessed with that as a culture, right? Self-help. Like our bookstores have sections called self-help. Yeah. And so we're always looking for ways to better ourselves, and ultimately that's what this phrase is trying to do. Like trying to motivate you to better yourself, find a new you. We were just talking about girl wash your face, you know. So it's trying to do, find a better you. And a lot of times people put a Christian sheen over that, which is what this is. It's like a Christianized self-help thing. So, and that's the kind of the core issue. It puts your confidence in the wrong person. Put your confidence in yourself. right? God help. Who does God help? Those who help themselves. And so then when you have God's blessing, what it actually does is say, well, haven't I helped myself a lot because God is helping me. God is on my side.
Look at me.
Yeah,
Pat
yeah.
myself on the
Well,
back.
and that's what the Pharisee is doing, right?
Yeah.
He goes in, he stands away, so so everyone can see him.
Yeah.
He's separate from the rest of the group, and he prays this loud prayer out loud, all about how great he is.
Yeah.
And he leaves, and he's not justified. He does not have God's help, but he's helped himself. But his confidence, what it's done, what it's taught him, is to put his confidence in himself.
So Ryan, what would you say to somebody? Because one of the things we talked about earlier was like there's kind of these two categories, right? Like kind of salvation and then kind of like everyday life.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who's like, Ryan, but I worked really hard in school and got good grades, and then I got scholarships, and then I went to college and I got a degree and I got this really good job and I interviewed well and now I work really hard. And so I like, yes, maybe God has blessed me or whatever, but really I've done all this work to give myself the life I have.
Yeah. Two things. One, are you the only one who's received blessing like that? Are there any unbelievers in the world who have received blessing like that?
Certainly.
And certainly, of course, there's billionaires who are, and so God's obviously helping them, or like common grace, right?
Yeah.
Like people get help outside of the family of God.
Yeah.
And so you think God's having more favor on them for these like temporal things, like success or whatever? And so all these Christian people that don't have those things, they need to work harder than this unbeliever. So I'd say that's an interesting dynamic to point to, like what and what do we mean by help and success and all those things? But also the root of the cause is you're just being like the Pharisee in that point. You're saying, "Oh, I got the grades."
Yeah.
Well, who gave you the intellect?
The brain.
Who gave you the focus? Who gave you the energy?
Yeah.
It's like, well, God.
Who kept you out of a circumstance that would have prevented you from even
who
going
gave who gave you the family, the home that you grew up in, the school that you went to, the teachers that you had?
Health.
Ultimately, that's all everything is God's sovereignty. Yeah. And so that's why,
it's not that I have not done anything. I certainly have done
or
things.
need to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like what I'm not saying is, hey kids, don't study for your test because God's going to help you or not help you.
Right.
No, what I'm saying is help yourself. Certainly help yourself, but your God's help for your life is not dependent on your level of help. That doesn't mean don't help yourself.
Yeah.
It just means don't equate God's help with the help that you're doing.
As responding to the things that you've done.
Yeah.
Because maybe you're in a situation where either you can't or are unwilling to do anything to help yourself.
Yeah.
God still can help you.
Well, this is what I told to someone after the service. They came and asked me about this. Like, what about non-spiritual things? Well, I said, I want you to think about a guy named Polycarp who was dedicated to the Apostle John. He was a disciple of the Apostle John, was writing and planting churches, and was so godly that when the Romans came to arrest him for being a Christian, he made a meal for them. He set the table for them. He said, "Can I go pray in the other room while you guys eat?" And they said, okay. And so he went and he prayed and they ate and they were done and they came and arrested him and carted him off to Rome and he died. It's like, well, he certainly helped himself a lot. Like he was very godly, very, very devoted to the teachings of Jesus. Why didn't God help him? He got burned at the stake in front of a crowd. Why didn't God help him?
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, actually he did, but he maybe didn't deliver him from martyrdom. And so to put I think Polycarp could have been like, God, why didn't you help me?
Yeah.
I helped myself. Why didn't you help me? And so it just, it's like I talked about later. It's like the equation, it's like we want it to be, X equals Y. You put in this much work, then God's going to put in this much work. And it's a line going up, That's not how it works. It's like, it actually, how much work you put in has no bearing on how much God is going to help or not help you.
It made me think of the story of Joseph. Old Testament Joseph.
Yeah.
So you got Joseph, who's this bratty kid, right? And all of his brothers hate him, and God is already working to send Joseph ahead to go through all these trials, but then become second in command of Egypt to save his life and his family's life. God is working to help him before he even realizes he needs help.
Well, and that's the case for Abraham, right? Yeah. Like Abraham's going to be the father of many nations. I had someone come up and ask me the other day, what was Abraham? Well, how they asked me was like, what was Abraham doing before he was an Israelite? And I was like, well, he wasn't. ever an Israelite. But I was like, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I was like, he was worshiping pagan gods in Ur.
Yeah.
Like he'd never heard God's voice.
Right.
And then God speaks to him and says, hey, I'm going to make you a father of many nations. And he's like, no, you're not. And God persists. Like even in Abraham's rejection, God persists. And so it's like, Abraham is actually actively working against God helping him, and God's still helping him.
And then Abraham's like, well, I'm not seeing the promise come to fruition.
He tries to help himself.
I'll help myself and I'll sleep with my maidservant.
Yep.
And God's like, I need your help, bro.
Yes.
Your help is actually causing a problem.
Yes, exactly.
Let me do it.
100%. 100%.
That's funny. Okay.
So it lowers your confidence in God and ups your confidence in yourself.
Yeah. All right. So then you say self-help gives us motivation from the wrong source.
Yeah. So this is a part that I cut a lot of content from. If you want to know more about everything that I'm just going to rattle off, I want you to read a book called The Secret Place of Thunder by John Stark. I've been raving about it in the past week. The subtitle is How Trading a Performative Life with God for a Hidden Life with Christ. And so what this phrase and how I connected these things is what helping yourself does. Your motivation is in either what people are thinking of you, like this performance that you're doing, which, and I say that and people think they're being fake, like they're like a fake Christian or something. But it's I don't mean that at all. I think there's a genuine way to be performative, right? I don't think that sounds like a contrast, but I think we know in a worship service, intuitively from being in church or whatever, how to even when the pastor makes a good point, how to scrunch our face and go,
No, y'all should do that.
But it's performative, right? And not to say that that's always bad, but it's for other people. It's for the pastor. It's for the people. I'm listening, right? Yeah. It's like when we nod our heads to show someone that we're listening. Brent's doing it now. And it doesn't mean you're not listening, but it also means you're performing for the other person to convey that you are. Yeah. When the performance becomes more important than the actual thing, that's really problematic. And I think God helps those who helps themselves teaches us that your performance, your ability to do all the right spiritual things is what gives you God's favor, is what gives you God's help, right? And that's what the Pharisee thought in the parable that Jesus tells.
Yeah.
And so your motivation turns from being devoted to God towards being someone who looks like someone who is devoted to God. Mm-hmm. Even if you are devoted to God, right? Both things can be true. You're maybe more concerned with the performance than you are with the actual devotion.
Sort of connected. I remember as a kid thinking, God, if I can read my Bible every day, or
this is the other thing.
If I don't sin, or whatever, give me a girlfriend, or give me whatever, help me win the baseball game or whatever.
Yeah. God, if I read my Bible every day, please just let this girl text me back or whatever,
Yeah.
And so that's the other danger, right? Is the motivation comes from, okay, I need God on my side. Mm-hmm. So I need him to help me. And so I can get that God's help for this some means, I'm going to do all these things.
Yeah.
And so when that becomes your motivation, so maybe it's not the performance, but maybe it's the earning God's favor to be on your side. That's a wrong motivation too. Mm-hmm. And it's ultimately a selfish motivation because what people want God's help in is their money, their relationships, their business acumen, their academics, their athletics, right? Whatever. What they usually don't want God's help in is to give up their worldly possessions and go move to a third world country to be a missionary.
Right.
But true devotion to God maybe leads us to self-sacrificial things like that. But this performance or this transactional relationship is always actually just about you.
Yeah.
You getting what you want and how you want life to go. And so when you're just helping yourself to get God's favor, your motivation then is whatever the next thing you want.
Yeah.
Not devotion to and obedience to who God is.
Yeah. That's good. All right. Then your last point in this is self-help equips us for the wrong battle.
Yeah, this one is, I think, pretty easy. It's just that, God helps those who help themselves. Okay, sure. Let's say I give that to you. in terms of all the temporal things, right? Your schoolwork, your athletics, your business, your family. So, hey, you work really hard. God's going to bless that. Kind of prosperity gospel. Let's say that happens, right? Then you get to the end of your life and you're laying on your deathbed and you're thinking, I've got a great business. I've got a great family. I've got I've got a degree from a great school, whatever. And you're sitting there and you're thinking, and I've used God as a tool my entire life.
Yeah.
I've not honored him as Lord. I've used him as a tool.
He's a means to an end.
Yeah. And I think in that case, you might die in your sin and be like, if God is not Lord, if you're not submitted to him.
Yeah. Well, it's like the guys you said.
Yeah, Lord, do we not do all these great things in your name?
We did all this stuff.
And Jesus says, no, you did it according to your will.
Yeah. You didn't
not
know me.
Not the will of my Father.
Yeah.
And that's the sticking point of that verse is who are you serving?
Yeah.
And what Jesus is teaching us there is that there's a way to do all the right things, the right spiritual things, and still only be serving yourself. And so we have to evaluate constantly when I'm waking up and doing my morning Bible study. Who am I doing it for?
Yeah.
And I think this is particularly important when I'm taking the picture on my phone.
Oh yeah.
Of my coffee and my highlighters and who's that for? Is that for God?
Well, I think Jesus directly addresses that, right? It's like, you have your reward.
Yeah.
Your reward's the praise of men. Look at you. Great job. So proud. Look at you. All the likes, right?
Yeah. When I'm
going to secret where your Father is secret.
When I'm coming to church, who's it for?
Yeah.
Right? Is it just for my kids to be moral? Or is it because I've given my life to God and to his people?
Yeah.
And so, I think that's in all of our spiritual disciplines and all of our spiritual practices, just asking that question, who is this for? Is it for me? And ultimately, it is for you because Jesus offers the life of flourishing and happiness and joy on his terms, not on worldly terms. But ultimately, it's like we're submitting all things to Jesus.
Yeah.
And God helps those who help themselves. I think it equips us for all these temporary things, but not for the one battle that actually matters, which is over your sin.
Yeah.
That you can't win. You can't help yourself.
Yeah.
And so if you can't help yourself in your sin, and so it changes your focus, like the spider story, to all this stuff that ultimately doesn't matter. Yes, young men who are sitting on the couch, eating chips, playing video games, not recreationally, like their whole day. They should get a job. They should help themselves and go get a job. I think the Bible even says that.
Yeah.
The laborer should be paid his wages, right? If a man does not work, he does not eat, right? That's all true, but not at the expense of focusing on God as your salvation, as your Lord, as your King.
Yeah. That's good. All right. So that's kind of a distorted view of us, then a distorted view of God, right? So self-help teaches God's work is reactive.
Yeah. So in the phrase, you initiate, right? God helps those who help themselves. It's a dependent. God helps those as a dependent.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you don't do anything, he's not going to help you.
Yes. And that's just not true. That's not how God works. And that was my main thrust of the sermon was I did not want to say here's all these particular situations where God may help you or you may need to just help yourself. It's more about what is God's character like. And the obvious overwhelming truth of the Bible is that God's character is not one of someone who only helps those or who helps those who help themselves.
God's not sitting up there looking around all right, who's gonna help themselves? Who can I go help? I can't help you until you start helping yourself.
I've got my bag of blessing here. Let's look down. Who's helping themselves? All right, you get some. Yeah. All right, Jeff Bezos. Here's 3 more blessing for you. Okay, Bill Gates. Here's all these people.
Think about Jonah. Jonah's doing the opposite. He's not helping himself. He's running from God.
Yeah, and
God's like, no, Jonah, I love you too much to let you keep doing this. I'm going to help you, even though you don't want my help.
Yeah,
and I'm going to make you get swallowed by this whale and turn you around.
Yeah. And so that's just not at all how God works, right? And I ran through, all these stories in the Bible, right? Yeah. Abraham, David, Joseph. I didn't say that one, but that's a great one. Mary, all the apostles, right? I was talking to someone about this before the sermon, but it's you know who didn't help themselves spiritually at all? The apostles. Because if they did, If they had been really dutiful in studying the Torah and all, they would be with a
rabbi?
a rabbi already.
Yeah.
But they weren't very astute. They weren't very good at studying their Torah. It seems like they were maybe some of them slacked off.
Yeah.
They didn't help themselves very much. That's why they're fishermen and tax collectors and all these other things. But what does God do? He goes and chooses them.
Yeah.
And he helps them. Like, it's a help for Jesus to go.
I just think like he chooses the weak things of the world to shame the wise. Right?
Yes. Well, and it's not that Jesus only helps them. And this is what I just thought of this. So this is what I should have said. But it's not that he only helps them spiritually. No, he gets on their boat. Yeah. And they rake in all the fish. You know? Yeah. So it's like he helps them.
Well, just think about that from like you could say, man, I went out, I learned how to fish, and I fished all day, and I made the food. Like, God didn't help me do that. It's like, well, who caused the fish to be in this water and near your bait and in your net?
Yeah.
It's like
God.
Like, yeah, you were out there. You were a tool, you were part of it, but God could have made you not catch any fish today. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you put food on the table, you went to work, but there's a lot of things that God has done to enable you to be in this position, get and do these things. Yep. And so it's not that you are this just like blah, I'm not doing anything, but you got to recognize and give credit to where credit is due of, man, I got to be thankful for so many things that have put me in the position.
Yeah. Well,
that were out of my control.
And I think like one of the things I like to teach kids, teenagers is talking about like, how does God normatively work? What's God's normal pattern? Yeah. Well, can someone sit in their empty apartment but somehow always make rent and somehow always have food and somehow always, of course. Yeah. God can do whatever he wants. Sure. But what's the normative pattern of God's operation? Well, it's that you get a job, like God in his will, you get a job, and using the knowledge and the whatever to
the health and the body
to get you the job, the opportunity, all those things. And you get the job, and then you work the job, and by God's command, you work as unto the Lord, and then you get paid a paycheck, and then like God, but your job ultimately didn't give you that money. God gave you that money, and then you can pay your rent and your bills and buy food, and that's how God normatively works. Yeah. So I would never say, "Oh yeah, God's got you. Just go sit in your house and don't do anything," because that's not how God normatively works. But how he normatively works is through the ordinary means of life. Yeah. And so yes, if you have a flat tire, the normative pattern of God working is that the person that changes the tire is you. Yeah. Now, someone might drive by and be a good Samaritan and come help you. That's how God could help. An angel from heaven could come down and change your tire. God could do that. Yeah. That's just not the normative pattern of how God operates. Right. And so working within the normal pattern of God's blessing, I think, is to help, is to be active, but it's not determinative of God's help. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, that's great. So then self-help teaches God's work is cooperative.
Oh yeah. This one's do you think this is like probably one of the harder teachings that I did on Sunday?
The word cooperative is interesting. Like, so to flesh it out a little bit.
So I wanted to talk about playing video games, because that's where you see the word co-op most of the time, right? It's that there's a mission, you're playing Halo 2. No, Halo 2 didn't have cooperative play. Halo Reach, I think, maybe had co-op. And there's a mission, and you're doing the mission, and the mission being successful is contingent on you and another player working together. Yeah. And that's not how God operates. God is
your way. I'll start walking mine.
God is playing a solo game. Yeah. He is completing the missions on his own, using us as the tools of his grace, his mercy, his power, but he doesn't need us. It's like, did he need Moses to put the staff down?
He could have got anybody.
Yeah, he could have done it without Moses putting the staff down.
Oh yeah.
But he says, Moses, go do this. And it's twofold, right? It's to say, I'm with you, particularly as a people. And when you follow my commands, right? Like, what I say is going to happen is going to happen. Yeah. But he could have split the Red Sea. He didn't need Moses.
Yeah, he didn't need Moses to lift his arm. He could just done it.
Yes. He didn't need, and so in the same way, God's help in your life it actually has nothing to do with you on a fundamental level. Yeah. Because of what we've been saying multiple times over and over again, is that because ultimately God's responsible for everything that you have. Every good, valuable thing that you love, thing that you cherish, thing that you've worked for, God has given it to you. James says every good and perfect gift comes from above.
Yeah.
And so you've actually done nothing.
Yeah. Well, I think about so many times in my life where people, without me asking or whatever, have just been a help, right? Have gone out of their way to help or whatever. And you talking about changing tires when we think of the situation that happened a couple months ago. I'm driving home and this car coming at me, the tire literally comes off the car, rolls across the street and like jumps over this, brick wall or whatever. And there's just sparks going or whatever. And I stopped to help and like, he can't get his jack under because now there's no room, right? And so I'm able to go home. My house was right there, get a jack, go fix them up, get it going. And it's like the fact that I was there at the exact time that happened and have the ability to do that, my house right there, get the old tools, like was the grace of God in that guy's life.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, it wasn't him working with God. It's like God was orchestrating.
It wasn't you. Like,
no.
You're like, hey, me and God, we're going to go do this good thing together.
Yeah.
It's like, no, God is working through you to bless this other guy.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't need you.
No, he didn't need me.
He could have done it anyway, but he chose to do it through you. Yeah, and I think that's super important because again, it just inflates our. Not only does it diminish God's work, but it inflates our work.
Right.
And so, I think I almost talked about this, but that we believe in America in the sixth solas. Yeah, it's by faith alone, to God's glory alone, by Scripture alone,
grace
alone. I already did that one. Christ alone. By working by my pulling myself up by my bootstraps alone.
Oh yeah.
I worked hard enough.
Yeah.
And that's why this thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to, as Christians, we just have to reject that notion.
Yeah.
That's like there's actually nothing you did. It doesn't matter how hard you pulled up on those bootstraps. Mm-hmm. Without God working, your work means nothing.
Right.
And so Jesus says, I almost talked about this verse too, is like Jesus says in the high priestly prayer, apart from me, they can do nothing. Not just they can do bad.
Some things.
They can do nothing apart from me.
Right.
And so recognizing that is hard because we don't like to be, you were telling the story about the guy, your mom was giving him eggs for free.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, let me pay you something. It's like, we can't stand to be taken care of or to be given something we didn't earn or not paid for. It hurts. We're so prideful. It hurts us. And what we have to realize is that that's actually in everything is us being given something we don't deserve.
Yeah.
And every good and perfect gift comes from above. And so God doesn't need you. He doesn't need another person. He's solely working with humans as his tools for his work, but they're not co-laborers. They're not apprentices like he's doing the work.
Yeah.
You're not swinging the hammer. You are the hammer. You are the nail.
I'm the one being swung. So it's not God and us together. But then you say self-help teaches God's work is subordinate.
Yeah. So that's the only logical conclusion from those other two. It's like if God's work is actually dependent on my work and it's cooperative with my work, then God's work is actually controlled by me.
God is at your mercy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You talked about like it should be offensive or it should make you like sure. That phrase just made me like, ugh.
Yeah. But that's what you're saying, that God's will is submissive to mine. God's power is submissive to my power. Like that God helps those who help themselves. That's what it says.
What did Lazarus do to help himself?
Bro died.
You said something to this effect in the sermon. I think it's like, the only thing we bring to the table is our sin.
Yeah, it's like not even that we bring it's not even that we bring nothing to the table. We bring negative to the table.
Yeah.
We bring our sin and our disobedience and our foolishness and our hatred. Yeah. And God says, I'm still going to bless you. I'm still going to help you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really the phrase isn't, I said later on in the sermon, God helps those who cannot help themselves. It's like God helps those who hurt themselves. Yeah. It's like who do all the wrong things. Yeah. That's who God helps. Yeah. Because we all are doing the wrong things.
Yeah, we're all aliens, rebels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the hubris, right? The pride to say that God helps those who help themselves is to say, God's going to help me on my terms when I do it.
Yeah. And that God is helpless up in the sky waiting around for us.
I love Brent so much. I wish he would help himself.
Yeah.
I wish he would help himself so I could then get in there and help him.
Yeah. When it's like, I think about when he says to be born again, how am I going to tell him I'm going to be born again? The whole idea is you can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to make you didn't do it the first time.
Literally, am I going to go back into my mother's womb?
Yeah.
It's like, well, no.
Yeah.
And even if that were the case, you couldn't.
You couldn't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. And so I think I was intentionally being sort of provocative there, but I think to its logical conclusion, God helps those who help themselves, says God's power is determined by mine.
Yeah.
God's help is determined by my help. And that's just that you're in control.
Mm-hmm.
And
so take a second to give me the opposite. What is the truth of if this isn't true, God helps those who help themselves. In a nutshell, give me what the truth actually is.
Well, it's Ephesians 3. There are two. It's Titus 3, right? That you're dead. You're bringing nothing to the table. You're dead, and God helps you because he loves you. Not because of anything you did, not because of anything you say, not because of anything you think or perform or no amount of effort. It's like, hey, even though you didn't actually help yourself, you tried really hard to help yourself, so I'm going to get you over the finish line. It's not what happens. It's like God sees you and has love for you and has mercy on you, has favor on you in a way that only he can determine.
So instead of God helps those who help themselves, in some ways it's just God helps.
Yeah, it's like God helps those whom he helps.
Yeah.
That's
Romans 9, right? God will have mercy on whom he will have mercy. He will help those whom he will help.
Yeah, yeah. And not by, and we hate this because we want things to be measurable. We want things to be repeatable.
Yeah.
It's like, so if you just pray this prayer, then God will help you.
Yeah.
It's like,
God
wrong.
is the determiner of who he helps.
Yes.
And how he helps them and when he helps them and why
God,
he helps them.
God helps those whom God helps.
Yeah.
That's the phrase.
Yeah.
Right. And we hate that because we're not involved.
Yeah.
But guess what? You're not.
It's his help to give. It's really the parable of Matthew 20, right? Of the workers in the vineyard. They all work at different times and they get paid the same amount for working different amounts. And the guy's like, that's not fair. The guy's like, it's my money. Can I not pay you whatever I want to pay you? It's God's help.
Yeah.
He can give it
to whoever he wants. Doesn't matter how long they worked, if they worked at all.
How much help, how little help, no help.
Yeah.
His help.
Like a guy in that parable works for 12 hours. And then one guy works for 1.
They get paid
the same.
Yep.
And if you're ticked about that story, like you think you're the guy that worked 12.
You need a wave group call.
And you're actually the guy who worked less than 1.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I said, I kind of made this God helps them whom he helps point. And I said, he might help the dedicated Christian businessman who is faithful to his family and living a morally clean, upright life. He might help the illegal immigrant who's panhandling on the highway to go buy beer and cigarettes or marijuana and beer, whatever. And God has help. God helps both of them. He can.
Yeah.
And if that frustrates you, it's because you think you're more like the businessman than you are the illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
But in God's holiness, it's like we all might as well be illegal immigrants panhandling on the highway to go buy beer and cigarettes. Because that's in light of God's holiness, that's who we are.
Yeah. There are 3 people. I'm just kind of thinking about this out loud. Like there are 3 people in the Old Testament that it's super clear that we're supposed to help: orphans, illegal or like foreigners, and widows. And at least 2 of those we identify as. We're aliens in this world. Right? We don't belong here. Our kingdom's not of this world. We belong somewhere else. And we're orphans, adopted into God's family.
Yeah.
We're kind of widows because our husband Jesus died in a sense. I guess. But the other,
the church, the bride of the church, the bride of Christ.
The first 2, it's like we identify as those things. It's like we should identify more with these lowly, broken things than.
Well, I mean, Titus, he said the picture he paints is terrible. Like Paul paints in that you're sitting in your sin, hating everyone and being hated. That's like, you just imagine someone just sitting in like the muck, the dregs, and then just mad at everybody around them.
Yeah.
And it says, and then God had mercy on you. It kind of makes me think of the Grinch. Like the Grinch literally like living in his trash, and he hates what is the line in the book? Like all the who's down in Whoville.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember because he says it in the movie. He's like, I'm speaking in rhyme. But he hates all of them. They hate him.
Yeah.
He's sitting up there in his trash mountain.
Yeah.
just disobedient, lazy, malicious, evil. And that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Like we think we're the who's, and it's like, oh, look, there's people out there that we need to bring in. No, like you're the guy in the trash mountain who hates everyone.
Yeah.
And God says, I want that one.
I've never thought about Cindy Lou as the Christ figure, the one who
goes
leaves
out.
home to
Yeah.
go to this far country
Yeah.
to get us and to bring us in.
Yeah.
Cindy Lou.
Like Jesus said something about a check. No, I didn't. That's like when people who follow the prosperity gospel like get to heaven. It's like, yeah, my pastor said Jesus said something about a check, and he's like, no, I didn't.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
and so that's the image of who God helps.
Yeah.
Is the one who cannot help themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Russell Moore tells a story about going to the Russian orphanage and seeing these babies and toddlers just sitting in silence in their own feces and slobber and snot, not even crying because they know no one's going to come help them.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, and they are helpless.
Yeah.
Like these babies,
That's us.
like to do anything. Yeah, and the Bible says that's you.
You need someone who's going to come to the orphanage to
Like
get you.
like, hey, child in the crib, sitting in a diaper that won't be changed for another day. Just help yourself.
Yeah.
Like God helps those who help themselves.
Why aren't you helping yourself?
Why don't you help yourself, baby?
Baby.
Literal infant.
Yeah.
And we think, it's like I said this in the sermon. The only people who would tell someone else God helps those who help themselves is someone who thinks they're capable of helping themselves.
Yeah.
And the truth of Scripture is you're not.
Yeah.
You're not capable of helping yourself.
Yeah.
And so to look at someone else is to say this to someone is to already inflate your own importance and deflate the importance of God.
You are the product of the help of God.
Yes. Yeah.
Not a product of your own
Mm-hmm.
pulling up by your bootstraps. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts?
Okay. No, I have no one submitted this question, but someone asked me this after service, and I want to get, because you've said this from the pulpit before.
Oh.
And so I want to square this with what I taught on.
Okay.
But it's also an episode of The West Wing.
Love
But
that. Best show on television.
remember when you've told this story before? It's like there's a flood. Like there's a man, and he hears a thing on the radio that there's going to be a flood, and he says, "God, come save me." And then a boat goes by, and
get on the boat.
Get on the boat. And he's like, "Nope, I'm waiting for God to save me."
Yeah.
And then a helicopter comes by, and they're like, "Get on, you're gonna drown." And he drowns. He's like, "Nope, God's gonna save me." And he drowns, and he gets there, and he's like, "God, why didn't you help me?"
Yeah.
And God says,
I sent you a boat and a helicopter.
What more do you want?
What are you doing here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what he said. What the heck are you doing here? And so it feels like the moral of that story is you got to help yourself. You got to heed the call of the radio. You got to get on the boat. You got to get in the helicopter.
Yeah.
You got to help yourself. I sent you the help. You got to help yourself. How do you square that with something like this?
Well, it's not that we have inaction. It's not that we don't have responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in some ways, we're talking about the sovereignty of God and human responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we're robots or puddles. I think of the Disney,
robots or puddles.
like I think about the.
Dude, we
Disney,
should write a book called "Robots or Puddles," and it's about
the
sovereignty of God.
I think of Wall-E, right? Everybody in Wall-E, like they're all in their chairs and they're like, they just don't. They drive around. If you can see me, I'm
someone that's watching on YouTube post a screenshot of me and Brent just being the people from Wall-E.
They're doing nothing. Robots do everything, right?
Yeah.
It's like what we're not saying is you do nothing. You lay around like a puddle, and God does everything. You have responsibility.
Yeah.
And so when God helps, God sent the whale and the storm and the whale to get Jonah, bring him back. Well, then Jonah, he did what he was supposed to do all along, and he went and preached to Nineveh.
Mm-hmm.
Still didn't have a great attitude about it, but he started moving.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like God. We can certainly reject the help of God.
Yeah.
We can reject the mercy of God that extends to us.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that square is just fine because we're talking about help and responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason some of us are in a better position in life is because God sent help, and we're like, thank you, Lord. I'll take it.
There is a sense.
And some of us said, nope, I don't want that.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. There is a sense in which we can be, it's not that we're not helping ourselves. I mean, we are not helping ourselves, but that God is sending help and we reject it.
Yeah.
But it's like not because we're not helping the guy in the story, it's not that he's not helping himself. He's not. But that's not the crux of the problem. The problem is God is helping him and he's saying, not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need obvious divine intervention or whatever.
It's almost like you say the phrase like we help ourselves when we accept the help from God.
Yeah. I think that's true.
Yeah.
No, that's hopeful. I think that's good. Because obviously that's the salvation aspect aside, there is a sense in which, well, God is going to help. God is going to help. How do I get God's help? How do I, and ultimately it's like, it says we can't, you can't force it, right?
Yeah.
There's no mechanism by which you can force God to help.
Not receiving the gift. It's like, hey, I can't put food on the plate, on my family's plate this week on the table, and we're all going to starve. And someone goes, hey, let me order you some pizza. No.
God will provide.
Can't do that.
God will provide.
But yeah, he did.
Give us this day our daily bread. He'll provide.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he sent me.
Yeah.
Accept the help of God.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think that's good. But maybe he's not going to, he's like,
food's just not going to go poof.
Yes.
It could, but it's not.
Yeah. It's not how he normatively works. Yeah.
I guess it has when he fed the 5,000.
Or, if a guy says, I can't put food on my table. I think this is maybe more realistic. I can't put food on my table. I can't pay my bills or whatever. And someone says to you, hey, I run a business. My
lawn mowed.
I'd love to, now maybe that guy should just give you the money or the food or whatever. That's a different conversation. But if a guy gives you an opportunity to come make some money and you're like, I'm just really waiting on
I'm waiting for a better opportunity.
I'm waiting for
That's what they would actually say. Probably wouldn't say I'm waiting on God. Like, well, that's just not I'm looking for a better opportunity. It's like, well, this is the one you got.
It's like, no, dude, take the deal.
Yeah.
It's like deal or no deal. Take the help.
Yeah.
It's like you can mow the lawn. You can, whatever.
Yeah. Or as as Lewis says in the Great Divorce, take the bleeding charity.
Take the bleeding charity, capital B, capital C. Don't bring that up. Make me cry. Do my D group. We're done with John.
Yeah.
And we're starting the Great Divorce next week.
It's so good.
It's so good.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for the recap. We hope this conversation has encouraged you to keep striving to make Jesus essential in every aspect of your life. If you aren't part of our church family, we'd love to meet you on a Sunday morning. We gather for worship at 10:30. For more information, you can go to myfellowship.church. Be blessed.
Thanks for listening.